Athletics Kenya has been around for the last 70 years, and in that respect, they are celebrating their anniversary, 70 years of existence. And to talk to us about that in our first segment of Sportscheck this morning will be Barnabas Korir, who is the Nairobi branch chairman of Athletics Kenya, and he also doubles up as the director, youth and development at Athletics Kenya. And he'll be talking to us about the journey so far, the greatest achievements for AK. As we all know, AK has actually led Kenya to, let's say, world fame when it comes to management of athletics, not only athletes, but athletics events here in the country. Not so long ago, 3 years ago, we were hosting the World Under-18 World Championship. And this year, we were slated to host the World Under-20 World Athletics Under-20 Championships. But that was not to happen. As we all know, COVID-19, came and ruined everything. But Barnabas Korir is here to talk to us about even the preparations for that event, which was postponed to next year. So kindly, Bwana Korir, if you can hear me, let's start by, of course, thank you for giving us the time right here on Sportscheck. Maybe let's start by talking about, just briefly, AK's journey since it was formed back in 1950.
Thank you and good morning. We are really thankful for this opportunity to discuss the issues of AK Kenya. We are now in the process of having the 70th anniversary of Kenya and the journey that we have come so far for the 70 years. And it has been a very successful period. From the era of the Euro in the 1950s, in the 60s, the era of Kipchoge Keino, 70s, Henry Rono, 80s, people like Paul Dergat and the others and the rest. Of course, Kenya is a very rich country in athletics, and this is the only sport that is well known all over the world. And we are really excited about it. We are going to have it on the 15th of this month, and now we are in the process of conducting all the heroes and heroines that have represented this country, and we are now almost getting there are more than 100, and you can imagine this is the only country that boasts of a huge number of great athletes that have in this country, breaking world records every year. In fact, yesterday one of our own athletes broke the world record in the half marathon. So you can imagine the history of athletics in this country.
It off in 1950 as the Kenya Amateur Athletics Association. And what can you say has actually gotten us to where we are in regards to the current management? Because as we all know, since Kenya Amateur Athletics Association back in 1950, thanks to Archie Evans, at the moment, what's the one thing that this current administration has done to actually put us on the map when it comes to not only performances, but also proper management?
When we look back, you realize that success does not just come easily. Of course, it comes with the management and good management of the association or the federation. And if you look back at the great chairman and, of course, the president, and currently we have Lieutenant General Tuwei, who has done a lot in the last 5 years to make sure that we continue with the deal. In a few years back, in 2015, Kenya won the World Championship for the first time. And of course, in 2016, despite the problems that we faced, the performance of this country was the best ever as far as medal win was concerned. And it is because of the management that has endured for the long period. You know, we have many athletes who are talented, but of course, without proper management and guidance, of course, they cannot achieve the dreams the athletes cannot achieve. We had proper programs that run throughout the year. We have our own calendars that help our athletes to continue planning. And of course, the competitions worldwide, we organize for them and ensure that in every department, starting from the youth development, we go also to competition directorate. We have also now the financial department. We have everything. The structures in Athletics Kenya is the one that has really enhanced development of sports in the country. And that is why you always see that we have even weekend meetings, starting with country, track and field, and eventually the national championship. That gives our athletes an opportunity to compete and enhance their talent. And of course, now that's when the opportunity for them to be recruited by teams from all over the world, participate in other competitions, and therefore improves their performance. So it is the management that has endured, that has really helped the federation to grow. And of course, that's why Athletes Kenya is well known. And of course, Kenya by itself is the best country in this is concerned.
Okay. Now, not so long ago, as I said earlier, most of the 2020 Athletics Kenya calendar, most of the events were done away with due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But as part of the 2020 World Athletics Continental Tour, Kenya, of course, hosted a quite successful Kipkeino Classic not so long ago, actually, a month, 2 months ago. And that, among other issues, among the proper management of athletics in Kenya, led Athletics Kenya to be nominated for the newly Athlete Federation of the Year award that is from World Athletics. And of course, we were nominated, but we were not able to win it. Of course, we had the Polish Athletics Federation winning it. But that in itself is actually quite a deal for Kenya. So maybe what's the symbolism for you guys at AK coming up against maybe some of the best federations, people who had been miles ahead of us before, and still, despite not winning, we were actually recognized. So the symbolism of that for AK kindly.
Yes, the recognition, the symbolism itself, you have put it, recognizing the input by Athletes Kenya is unique, and actually it is the best thing that can happen also to our country. Is the role athletes from Kenya has done to the promotion of athletics all over the world, and that recognition is also indicative of the proper management that emanates from Athletes Kenya. And I can tell you that you have any competition outside this country worldwide, there's a feeling that it is not complete if there's not a Kenyan running. So you can imagine now the reputation that this is built in athletics and the respect that we have throughout the world. And despite the problems that we are facing as far as looking at that, the federation has indicated that this is individual issues, maybe a few, problems that face some few athletes. But overall, the management of athletics in this country is very successful, is good, and that's why by World Athletics recognizing Athletes Kenya in itself indicates that they have confidence in what the management has done, headed by the General Tuay, and that is exactly what he has been doing. And the encouragement also we receive from World Athletics, from well wishers, and also the support from other managers from other countries has really helped this country to move forward. We continue doing that, and we also thank for the government support they give during the competitions that we had, and you also for yourself the organizations that we put in managing the Kipkeino Classic that actually show the world that Kenya is ripe to host major international events in the future. So this is the direction we want to do. And this week we had also seminars across the country for the youth. We want also to change the attitude, the perception on how the young people also can see athletics and use it for development and for support, and also to continue with education. We are concluding it this morning in Nairobi here after going through the country from the region and finally Nairobi. This is another way of showing the Kenyans that we are very serious as a federation to ensure that we continue helping our athletes to grow and also to adjust to the challenging situations in the world now, especially the current problem with COVID-19. So we are adjusting, we are trying to make sure that we adapt to the new dynamics, and you saw the performance of our athletes also yesterday in Valencia. And we are still strong. And although we were afraid that maybe our athletes might have problems because of lack of training, eventually they got even more time training individually and to ensure that their performance is always up.
Be getting back to the conversation, but kindly bear with us as we digress a bit. We shall be taking the viewers to the Bomas of Kenya, where, of course, the Ministry of ICT, Information and Youth Affairs has partnered with the United Nations Population Fund to launch the Kenya ni Mimi Youth Campaign, a national platform, of course, for the youth to dialogue on the youth agenda in matters, on social matters, economic matters, as well as political matters. We're going to be listening just for a minute, but don't go too far. Of course, we shall be continuing that conversation.
Our fellow young people who are going to tell us what they do, and we are going to have a conversation. So tutaongea sisi na nyinyi. Sawa sawa. So si ati mnatusikiliza tu. No. I will expect to hear from you as well. So please prepare yourself. Good. So that when the microphone comes, you can contribute to this conversation as So, I will start off with Faith, who is here next to me. Faith, kindly introduce yourself so that they all know who you are and why you woke up early in the morning to be here today.
That to follow a more comprehensive report, and of course more updates are coming to you in a subsequent bulletins. That's the lunchtime news, the Rubini, and later on at 9 p.m. during news hour. Now let's continue the conversation with Barnabas Korir, and we were talking about AK, of course, about to celebrate 70 years of existence. And just before we digressed, Korir, we were talking about the performances yesterday in Valencia, the World Half Marathon, where our athletes, Peres Jepchirchir, of course, and Evans Chebet won their respective races in Valencia. So what is, because looking at yesterday's races, of course, and, even the Cape Kano Classics, we've been seeing a lot of, new faces, actually. We might have people who are already there, but at the moment, they're actually coming to prominence. What has that transition been from, of course, having the already well-renowned athletes to now having to, to uniquely shape the upcoming ones, and those who are just at the moment just, acknowledging and, finding, world fame due to athletics? What has the transition been like from those big major names that we had before to, of course, the upcoming ones at the moment, the likes of whom we are seeing finally getting recognized in these races?
Yes, you realize that Kenya is hugely talented. We have a lot of athletes that have got talent, and it is a continuous process. You know that the youth starts from the youth, the 4 men programs that we have, and the continuity that we want to enhance is what you can see now in the results. That you find that in these new races, there's a pop-up of new names that you might not have seen. But then if you look at history, you will find that those athletes have been there from the youth all the way to that category. Now at this time, they're coming up and getting strong. And of course, the transition has been continuous. It does not come automatically. It's a process. That process has been ongoing. Like what we are doing now for the youth is now these athletes will eventually, in 2-3 years, they'll be taking over from those who are currently on top. And that's why you find people like Evans Chebet. We have also Mutiso, Jepchirchir, and of course Kipiwot. Their names might be new, but if you look historically, the performance they've been doing when they were young, it has been consistently growing. So we want to continue with that direction, the dynamic that has been going on. You can see the performance, the times they have been running is exceptionally fast. And it is changing, the kind of food they're eating, the kind of training they're using now is totally different from the past. And that's why you find that we have new names coming up. We have also now the coach drills that is different from the past so that you can run very fast. And that's the way to go. If you look also at the performance from other countries, like Denmark, you have some very good athletes coming up. The US also have a program that we've been using. Of course, our neighbor, Uganda, which is coming up, also giving us challenges. Adding up with Ethiopia, and of course now South Africa with a short distance, and Nigeria. So in the future, what we are looking at is that the world is going to be very competitive, and with the support of sponsors and the finances increasing, and then now athletics becomes a way of earning a living. That is why you find so much interest. Those our artists also look at it as a model that they can use it for to earn their livelihoods also. So this is something that is new, and we have also to adjust. We also study, every day performance from all over the world. We want also to see what other countries are doing, what are the interests of the sponsors, the companies that also fund these athletes and give them the contracts. What do they want? But what we need to do is to have a situation where in our athletics, we have a fair competition, transparent, and of course to avoid any athlete or body that uses any banned substances, so that any game that is done, when our artist wins, we should sit knowing that they have run clean, they have won fairly, so that it makes us now proud of our own athletes.
We've talked about, clean athletics, or winning fairly and clean. We shall be getting into that later. But since we were talking about athletics for the future, and you being the Director for Youth and Development, at what point are we going to, let's say, for lack of a better phrase, at what point are we going to digress more to, because Kenya have been prominent when it comes to athletics in matters track, but even field events nowadays matter, because in global competitions, you have the likes of China and some Asian countries, some European countries, actually, their medal tally is actually, boosted by the fact that they concentrate more on, let's say, field events, since already track events are our specialty. So maybe what have we been doing to ensure that very soon we shall also be posing, stiff competition to these European countries, Asian countries, when it comes to even field events?
Yes, that is something that is good to discuss. We have our own program now, because we cannot continue relying only on the middle and long distance, because other countries are also specializing in those events. We want now to look into the possibility of having sprinters, which we actually do have. The only problem that we have been facing is the finance, the support from the government and the well-wishers to procure equipment that our artists use, because that direction is very expensive. At least Kenya cannot afford to buy. We have now the new stadium, renovated, refurbished Nyao Stadium. We are going to use that, and we are also thankful of His Excellency the President for ensuring that through the ministry to make sure that the stadium is okay. But what we are lacking now is to have proper equipment, especially for the sprinters and also the real events. In fact, in Kenya here, we don't have the landing pad for the ball fault, so we cannot have it, because that is a very expensive venture. We don't have proper landing mats for the high jump. We developed the running track for the triple and long jump. The runway for both has already been done. And what we are looking now is to ensure that the athletes that are interested in throwing events, javelin, discus, and hammer, we have the athletes, they have the capacity. What we want to do now is to ensure that the coaches are trained so that they will be able now to handle those real events. We cannot wait any longer. We want also to project in the next 3 to 4 years, we should be able to win medals in those areas. It is not that we don't have the capacity. We have the capacity, but what we are lacking, of course, are the technical equipment that are used in those fields. And I'm sure that we are targeting now to start, especially the javelin, the long jump, triple jump, for both boys and girls, for the 120. And we are looking into that. We want to make sure that we win a medal. We focus strongly on that. And even though we had problems with COVID-19 training areas, we want to create a bubble now so that those athletes who are qualified for that event can be trained, particularly in one area, and be focused on that event. That's the only way we can make it at the world stage. And that is what, as a federation, as a youth department, we are looking in. We cannot continue relying on long distance only, but we have to diversify and ensure that we win the medals in the field events, and of course the short event, track and field. That is the only way we can give our own athletes an opportunity to excel in their own fields.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now you've also mentioned the issue of equipment, of course, waiting to procure more equipment. And back in 2017, when you hosted the World Under-18 IAAF Under-18 Championships, even when it comes to some of the equipment, maybe let's say that the juniors were using, even on the track, how often do we have let's say training sessions or even workshops to actually help these youngsters identify with some of the equipment even on the track? Because back in 2017, as you know, as we were covering that event, we could see some, let's say, some technical issues a bit when it comes to athletes, even, you know, at what moment do they start racing? At what moment at the right time so that they don't get penalized? So how often do we have such workshops to, you know, actually help them understand even the equipment that we use on track?
Last year when we went to Algeria for the that was done in Buenos Aires. It was an classic coach for girls doing the high jump, and so the style that was completely different of doing things. And she was the only one, and she was not even able to jump the first part. That in itself really made me feel that something has to be done, so that we have coaches who can assist our athletes. We don't go through such embarrassing situation again. Up to 2018, yes, we have the equipment, and you know, the youth have got different weights for these events that they're using, like the javelin, the discus, and the hammer. Their weights are different from the juniors. Under 20, they are also different, and the seniors are also different. Yes, we have those equipment, and we have talked to the ministry, we have talked also to Sports Kenya, to ensure that the equipment athletics should be under our custody, to ensure that we assess those material. If it becomes a problem now that yes, those javelin, items are there in the stock, and we cannot assess it as a federation, then it defeats the logic why we have it in the first place. So that is the direction we are taking now, so that any equipment that is directed towards athletics should be under our custody, so that we are able to give our own athletes to use them, to train, and to ensure that they are, they know how to use that. What we are looking into now is under 20 as it comes. We want also the equipment that the government is going to procure, so that we have it and under our custody, and to ensure that they access anytime they want to use it. Because sometimes you leave it in the store and it can damage. We have also the electronic timing machine equipment that have been sitting there. We managed to use it for the classic. Those are the things now that we have to make sure that we harmonize. We bring everything in line with the Sports Kenya, Athletes Kenya, and the ministry, to ensure that every equipment that is specifically for Athletes Kenya should be given to Athletes Kenya, so that our athletes can access and use it as much as possible whenever they need it. And that is the only way that we are able to do that. But of course, if we start now, fighting over small things and to ownership of those equipment, it defeats completely the logic why those things were bought in the first place. And yet, everybody knows it belongs to athletics. Football doesn't use, rugby doesn't use it. So we are asking the government that anything that pertains to athletics, give it to us, use it, and that is why the purpose of purchasing those equipment is for the benefit of athletes.
Okay. Now we were supposed to hold the World Under-18. We were supposed to host the World Under-20 Championships this year, but then again, due to COVID, it was postponed to August 2021, as from 17th to around the 22nd. And maybe what lessons, as we aim, because when it comes to hosting such international competitions, we always strive to do better in the next one as compared to the previous one. So maybe what are the lessons from 2017 that you guys have actually sat down and said we need to make a change here, before we host the other tournament next in 2021, and as well as is there, because we've been having a few reports that we're going to be bidding for the World Athletics Championships later on in like a few years. But first of all, what are the lessons that maybe you learned in 2017 that you want to, improve the next tournament we are going to be hosting, which is the World Under-20 Championship next year?
I think the major lessons that we must learn as Kenyans, and it also emanates from all under-18, and we don't want it to go through the same process that we went through, is the doing things on time. The problem that we face as a country is that we wait until the last minute, and that last minute will make everyone keep on rushing. And when you start rushing, of course, you will always make mistakes in the process. And I don't see the reason why, as a country, the moment that we are given to host an event and you have a time frame of 1 or 2 years to prepare, then you find that the last 1 month or 2 weeks remaining, then we start running around to make sure that we have everything in place. That should be the lesson that we must learn. We have enough time now to prepare for the World Under-20, and we should start like yesterday to make sure that everything, the timelines that were given, we have to meet it on time. And of course, the major problem is that the partnership with the government, the sponsorship, the guarantee from the government, of course, is the finance. If we don't get enough funds now from the sponsor or the private sponsors, definitely it's the government that is funding it. And we always urge the government to avail the funding on time so that this process can move forward. That is the only problem that we face. And of course, there are other items that we have as a federation we are able to handle. And I think going forward now to World Under-20, we want to defend the title as chairman of the youth. We won in Tampere, Finland, 2 years ago. I'm going to defend that title. To win World Championship, a world event, is not something that can be taken for granted. It is a special thing. If it was other countries, they probably appreciate it. In this country, we need to change also the perception of how we do things. We need to change the mindset and to focus mainly on the achievements of our teams and of course as a country to ensure that we continue projecting this country as the best transporting nation, at least coming from Africa.
Okay, now we just had the first stages of course, the first preliminary trials, of course, for the tournament. And do we now have a clear date? Because a while back when you had that conversation during the pre-trials, you did mention that December is when athletes, the 80 athletes chosen, were going to be reporting to come. So maybe do you have a clear date on that and any update in regards to that?
The problem we have been facing is, of course, the COVID-19. It keeps on changing, and sometimes you are afraid how you can also put the athletes. And the plan we have now is immediately when we finish the pre-trials, we had a seminar for all our athletes that we have gone through, the same group of athletes that we have been trying to inculcate to give them character development, in the process also assist them in their training. In fact, there's a process going on now, a seminar at Milele in Nairobi here, about 50 athletes who are there now being given instructions from the instructors and also from AIU. We have also starting at 10:30 today the same group. We have the Zoom seminar meeting from AIU talking about these athletes. Concerning now the competition stuff, we wanted to make sure that we have a few of our athletes, the ones who have been chosen especially for field events, put them in a purple, and we are still waiting to see if we get them in the December period. And then after that, now in January, February, we continue assisting them training from where they are so that we avoid any effects of coronavirus in our athletes. And so far we have been lucky, thank God we have been lucky. We have not had problems with our own athletes, but we want to continue that. And in April now, we will have the trials that will select that comes continuously until August for the event.
Okay. Now, Bwana Korir, talking about the youngsters and the upcoming tournament, and earlier on you did mention a point on fair and clean competition. So maybe taking into consideration the fact that these children are actually coming up at the moment, the youngsters, they're trying to attain, the high level in athletics. What have we been doing to ensure that we don't have those those frauds, coaches who of course come and, let's say for lack of a better word, mislead these young athletes into even matters doping, because we've had a lot of cases in regard to that, that is actually the only thing that has been tainting our image a bit since already we are winning. So maybe what have we been doing to ensure that the coaches that these youngsters train with maybe eventually will not have, will not get to a position whereby we have, the same old. Kenyan athlete has been banned for this long. Yeah, so.
Yes, thanks for asking that question. This is a very important area that we are trying to handle now. We have looked at it critically. In the last 5 years, Athletes Kenya have been holding seminars every year for the both senior and junior athletes, and also the marathoners, road racers. We have seen what we have done, everything, and then of course every weekend we go around for the meetings, cross country and also track and field, and we continue trying to give instructions on how these athletes should behave and act. We have also involved ADA in Kenya and hand in hand with AIU, so that in the framework of trying to make our athletes understand exactly what they need to do, we have done. But then when you look at it, we have not seen the results we expected from them. So in that respect, we decided that we now have to focus on the youth, because the youth now has not been affected much by this problem. So we are able to change the mindset, the mentality, through programs that we are doing now. And we are trying now to educate them. We have teachers who are also who are with integrity. We are trying to talk to them about the character development. The character development is the one that will determine an individual's behavior and also the future interactions with others. So we want to change that course, and then after this now, we go back in February. We are now going to visit these athletes where they are training and involve also the parents, the coaches, and the stakeholders on the ground where they are, and educate them so that, of course, the parents, when it starts running, they normally put pressure on them to run so that they can make money. We want to change that. We want also to change the mindset of the coaches themselves. What do they think? How do they handle these athletes? Are the coaches trained themselves to handle young people? Those are the areas we want to look into, so that these coaches also will be given training on how to handle the young athletes. We focus mainly on the coaches who are teachers, so that these teachers now have been trained, and then they have also, they're accountable to the Ministry of Education if something goes wrong. But those coaches who have not been trained, who are not teachers, are the ones now we want to look at them and see and understand how they are coaching. How is it possible that somebody who calls themselves a coach has never been trained? They don't know how to handle the young people. They don't know how to handle even the adults. Is allowed to continue coaching without proper guidelines. So we want to change that. We want to train those coaches also. If they pass, then they can continue. And we give them the license to practice, so that anybody who wants to coach an athlete must have passed some kind of curriculum to be taught on how to handle the athletes and, of course, about doping issues. If we do that, then we have a chance of succeeding. If we don't do that, then, of course, the same old way of doing things will continue happening, and eventually that every time you see this, something happens about an athlete has been found to have doped. Some of them even for the simple reason that they have been given to provide the background where they are staying, the whereabouts, and they are not even able to fill that. How is that possible that an athlete cannot send just an SMS to say that I'm staying here at this time and in this area? So we want to change that, so that even an individual actually is found to have doped, and that person should be penalized for actually doing it intentionally. They cannot use it as an excuse to say that I've not been taught.
Okay. Now, Barnabas Korir, once again, kindly allow us to digress for just briefly.